Hello, good evening, and welcome to News Central TV. My name is Mazino Appeal. Here are stories making rounds beyond the continent. Now let's begin with updates on the war between Israel and Hamas, where Israelis have continued to rally in Tel Aviv, calling for a ceasefire and the safe return of hostages held in Gaza Strip. Israelis have taken to the streets for a fourth day in a row following the recovery of 6 dead hostages from Gaza and after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu dismissed making any concessions in stalled talks toward a hostage release deal. Now let's also tell you that the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs has warned about the Israeli army's use of lethal warlike tactics during their ongoing operations in the occupied West Bank. It also said access restrictions are severely hindering efforts to deliver essential humanitarian aid. Stefan Dujarric, the spokesperson for UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, emphasized the need for unhindered humanitarian access, stating that it must always be facilitated. Dujarric added that the UN has recorded more than 24 fatalities in the past week, including children. He noted that on Tuesday, multiple organizations coordinated by the OCHA were set to conduct an assessment in Jenin, but were denied access by Israeli authorities. And from the Middle East, but still talking about conflicts, Irish Prime Minister Simon Harris has announced a €36 million aid package to Ukraine to help fund and support a range of projects across the country. Harris made the announcement during a joint press conference with President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev. The Ukrainian capital added that Ukraine belongs in the European Union. The duo also signed an agreement on cooperation between the two countries. In particular, Ireland will provide non-lethal military assistance to Kiev, train soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine, and help with demining.
I wanted to be here today to say very clearly that Ireland will always stand with Ukraine, that Europe will always stand with Ukraine, and that both Ireland and the European Union will stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes. And Ireland will never allow the war on Ukraine, the brutal Russian aggression, we will never allow that fade into the background. I'm pleased today to be in a position to provide an additional €36 million in humanitarian assistance on behalf of the people of Ireland. And this will help fund and support a range of projects across this country, including working with UNICEF in the area of supporting children as well. I'm also really pleased that we have signed the Support and Cooperation Agreement. In many ways, this codifies what we already know, that we are friends, that our countries are friends, that your place and your country's place belongs in the European Union, and that we will work with and support Ukraine, not just now in seeking to end the war, but then in the process of rebuilding and welcoming you into the European Union.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said his government needed new energy during a major reshuffle that saw Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba and several others hand in their resignation. The announcement comes a day after several other ministers and officials resigned in one of Kiev's most significant government reshuffles since Russia invaded 2.5 years ago. Zelensky had said in August that he planned to make changes to the cabinet, but the scale of the reshuffle has surprised some observers.
Я дуже вдячен міністрам і всій команді Кабміну, яка працювала для України, заради українців. 4,5, а хтось 5 років були міністрами. Нам сьогодні потрібна нова енергія і пов'язані ці кроки, тільки вони пов'язані з посиленням нашої держави на різних напрямках. Міжнародна політика, дипломатія не є виключенням. Я сьогодні не можу прогнозувати, чим конкретно буде займатися той чи інший міністр. Є відповіді на це, коли будуть запропоновані їм ті чи інші посади. На сьогодні говорити про це ще рано.
Still in the region, Russian President Vladimir Putin said he was expecting Chinese leader Xi Jinping to attend a summit of the BRICS group of major emerging economies in Russia next month. Putin has looked to the Chinese leader for support since the Ukraine conflict began, with the two boosting trade to record highs as Russia faces heavy economic sanctions from the West. The BRICS group, an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, represents almost half the world's population and has since expanded to include other major emerging economies, including the United Arab Emirates and Iran. The group is set to hold a summit in the Russian city of Kazan from the 22nd to 24th of October, in what the Kremlin hopes will be a chance to expand its influence and forge closer economic alliances.
Как и договорились, мы ждем на саммите БРИКС председателя Китайской Народной Республики господина Си.
The chair of the 1922 committee has announced the result of the first round of voting in the Conservative Party leadership contest. The committee chair, Bob Blackman, said former Home Secretary and staunch right-winger Priti Patel has been eliminated from the race. Leading the pack in this round with 28 votes is former Immigration Minister Robert Gendrick. Also still in the running are Kemi Adenoch, James Cleverly, Mel Stride and Tom Guttenhart. The next round of voting is scheduled for next week, where another candidate will be eliminated. Now, joining us to discuss this is an international affairs analyst, Otumba Olabode Oseni. Mr. Oseni, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us again.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome, sir. So, sir, please, what factors do you believe contributed to Priti Patel's elimination in the first round, and how might this affect the strategies of the remaining candidates?
Thank you. Simply, the answer to your question is at every, maybe when there's a national crisis with any of the major parties, Labour, Conservative, after the last election, when they lost, automatically that would trigger another leader of the party. So Sunak will be will be removed when the new party leader emerges. So in the situation, the 1992 committee will conduct a series of elections for a new leadership. So the way it is, it's all about how many. I think there were five of them. Depends on how many MP members you can put together to support your bid. So as it is, Jerry had got about 24 or something like that, followed by Olufunto, Kemi Badenoch, and the third person. So Patel did not have enough votes to continue to the second level. That's why she has been eliminated.
So, Mr. Oseni, with Robert Jenrick's currently leading, what are his key strengths and also weaknesses, and how could they impact his chances in the upcoming rounds?
There are two more levels to climb. Jenrick will have to show a considerable amount of strength by convincing the remaining MPs to tell them that he'll be able to unify the party, he'll be able to come up with winning policies and so on. So he have to campaign for him to become a leader, and the same thing with the other candidates. So they will have to show reasons why they have to be the new leader of the Conservatives. Because, like I said, there are two more levels to go. So it's the first one. So the second one is coming up, I believe, next Tuesday or something like that. So, but you have to show strength that you're able to unite the party, the members, and everything. And the MPs must be convinced that he is the person or she is the person. So that's coming up again next Tuesday.
Let's talk about Kemi Badenoch, her political and public profile. How does it set her apart from the other contenders?
Well, I put it this way: the Kemi Badenoch, as you know, has African Nigerian origin, and is married to a white person. All this, the journey so far has been so smooth. She was one time shadow secretary, and she's still like one of the front runners to win the leadership election. Even though that does not mean that she will be the candidate for the next general election in 4 years' time or so. So, but the situation as it is, you need to understand that what they need to do now is to continue rally around their peers, their member of their parties, the MPs who want to support their bid. So far, so good. She's coming on very well, but then it's going to get tougher when it gets to the next level, and that might not be as easy as it is now.
Talking about that next level, next round of voting, and also comparing that with the party politics and also endorsements or dynamics, how will this affect the leadership contest, endorsements and relationships inside of the party?
Well, as I said, the ball, what you'll be looking at is the ball, that who is going to get the bigger ball, and the way it is the MPs, once an MP fall off, goes out, he or she can allocate, can tell her supporters or his supporters to support one of the remaining MPs, right? Candidates. So it then depends on how the skill she has and how many MPs are willing to continue to support her. Again, it's very difficult at this level to say, because at the beginning, the election was started with the belief that she would come first, but that has not been the case. So it's maybe going to be more difficult, not too difficult, because as it is, she's probably going to be one of the last four before they go to their conference in Birmingham, and she still stands a very good chance. But whether she's going to have a final winning something, that is very difficult to be seen. Again, we're giving a correct, authentic analysis here. There are many other hurdles that I have no doubt in my mind, having lived in Europe for so many years, in UK for so many years. Her chances is, I'm not too sure. And also, what might attract the other members, as she might get as much followers among her peers, but when it comes to going to the followers, the main people following the conservative parties, might become a little bit difficult. It may not be as rosy as we want to see it.
Mr. Hosseini, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your presence here this evening. Thank you indeed.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, sir. Now let's go on a short break. When we return, we will bring you details of the 2017 Grenfell Tower fire report. Stay with us. Welcome back. The news continues in Europe. Following the release of the final report on the Grenfell fire disaster in Britain, the inquiry chairman, Martin Moerdijk, says the deaths of 72 people in the 2017 inferno were all avoidable. On June 14, 2017, a high-rise fire broke out in the 24-story Grenfell Tower block of flats in North Kensington, West London, and burned for 60 hours. 70 people died at the scene and 2 people died later in the hospital, with more than 70 injured and 223 escaping. The highly critical report marks the end of a 2-part independent inquiry led by the retired Judge Moerdijk into Britain's worst residential fire since World War II.
The simple truth is that the deaths that occurred were all avoidable, and those who lived in the tower were badly failed over a number of years and in a number of different ways by those who were responsible for ensuring the safety of the building and its occupants. They include the government, the tenant management organisation, the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, those who manufactured and supplied the materials used in the refurbishment, those who certified their suitability for use on high-rise buildings, the architect, the principal contractor, and some of its subcontractors, in particularly Harley Curtain Wall and its successor Harley Facades, some of the consultants, in particular the fire engineer Exover Warrington Fire, the local authority's building control department, and the London Fire Brigade.
Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has issued a state apology for the Grenfell Tower fire disaster, which claimed 72 lives in 2017. The apology comes as a final report revealed that the deaths were preventable. In a statement to Parliament, Starmer acknowledged the tragedy, stating it should never have happened, and emphasized that the country failed in its most fundamental duty.
I want to start with an apology on behalf of the British state to each and every one of you, and indeed to all of the families affected by this tragedy. It should never have happened. The country failed to discharge its most fundamental duty, to protect you and your loved ones, the people that we are here to serve, and I am deeply sorry.
And we head now to North America, where a suspect has been taken into custody after a report of an attack on Appalachia High School in Winder, Georgia, United States. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation said it responded to a shooting at the school in the state's Borough County, in which students evacuated from the scene. A media report which cited the local sheriff's office reported that there had been casualties without providing further details. At least one air ambulance took a patient from the scene, according to footage from the scene. The school is located in the town of Winder, about 470 kilometers northeast of Atlanta, the state capital. And to Central America now. Honduran President Xiomara Castro denounced an ongoing coup amidst controversy over her decision to cancel an extradition treaty with the United States that has led to the imprisonment of powerful drug traffickers. Castro ended the treaty with the United States 6 days ago, saying he wanted to prevent Washington from using it against military personnel loyal to him and facilitating a coup attempt. But the opposition said Castro canceled the treaty, which allowed the imprisonment of around 50 Honduras drug traffickers, including a right-wing former president, to protect members of his government and family.
Ratifico que la paz y la seguridad interior de la República están en riesgo. El plan para destruir mi gobierno socialista democrático y el próximo proceso electoral están en marcha. Se están reorganizando en nuestro país para asestar un nuevo golpe de Estado que el pueblo debe repeler.
Nicaraguan regime aligned Congress approval a law empowering domestic court to pass rulings against people and entities abroad that are found to promote sanctions against the internationally criticized government. The reform can see prison sentences of up to 30 years imposed for the crime of undermining national integrity. The courts in Nicaragua are also viewed as loyal to President Daniel Ortega's regime, which has shut down almost 5,500 NGOs since protests against him in 2018 were met with a crackdown. The United Nations said left more than 300 people dead. The Central American nation has jailed hundreds of critics, real and perceived, in the past 6 years. In South America, thousands of Colombians were forced to walk to work as truckers in major cities blocked highways to protest a recent increase in the price of diesel fuel. Truckers' unions have said that plans by the government to eliminate diesel fuel subsidies would push their businesses to the brink of bankruptcy, while the administration of left-wing President Gustavo Petro argues it must phase out subsidies to cut a growing budget deficit and direct more funds to education and health. The government raised the price of diesel fuel to around $2.90 per gallon, an increase of 50 cents following numerous meetings with truckers' unions. In a recent response, the union have been holding protests around the country, which intensified with roadblocks in the cities of Bogota, Medellin, and Cali, which have diminished the amount of food arriving at wholesale markets.
Yo soy volquetero mi abuelo fue volquetero, mi papá, mis tíos, toda la vida estaban volqueta. Esto afecta, yo soy el que trabajo en la casa, el que mantengo la casa, y pues los gastos ya no me daría ganancia. Me tocaría venderla o hacer otra cosa porque no es rentable.
No, pues no he podido llevar la carga a su destino. Tenía que entregar hoy la carga, no pude llegar a tiempo. Y si los gastos se incrementan, pues en la comida, de todas maneras se aprovechan del paro para vender las cosas más caras.
And in Asia, Pope Francis on Wednesday appealed for religious unity to counter extremism and tolerance, as the longest tour of the 87-year-old papacy got into full swing in Muslim-majority Indonesia. On the first full day of his four-nation trip to the Asia-Pacific, the Pope zeroed in on the role all faiths can play on flashpoint security issues. In a speech after meeting President Joko Widodo, the Pope said, in order to foster a peaceful and fruitful harmony that ensures peace, the Church desires to strengthen interreligious dialogue. He also said self-interest was preventing the religious unity he had called for and was driving wars around the world.
Come è stato ricordato, il motto scelto per questa visita apostolica è fede, fraternità, compassione. Penso che siano tre virtù che esprimono bene sia il vostro cammino di Chiesa, sia la vostra indole di popolo, etnicamente e culturalmente molto varia, ma al tempo stesso caratterizzata da una connaturale tensione all'unità e alla convivenza.
And that's all on Beyond the Continent this evening. To remember, you can send your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number on your screen, and do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, AVO TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.